Hello everyone, welcome to a Tim Talk where I share my thoughts, opinions, and philosophies as someone who has been doing model aviation for over a decade and as someone who is a mechanical engineer. So today we're going to talk about money and the cost of first-person view drones. So this is kind of geared towards beginners looking to get in the hobby, and I just want to try to give you guys an idea of how much it will cost you both in the short term and the long term. And as with any Tim Talk, there are going to be some opinions in this video. I'm just trying to share my thoughts and my experiences. So if you have different thoughts or you want to share your own experiences, please feel free to do that down in the comments below. I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say. And this video is kind of in preparation for the upcoming How to FPV series, which is focused on how to fly, but I want to have something on my channel talking about how much it costs and kind of how to spend your money, because that is definitely something that beginners want to know. So the first thing that most people who are looking to get involved in first-person view drones want to know is, how much does it cost me to get started and get off the ground? And the answer to that is, it depends. It can be as low as maybe $500 and as expensive as maybe $2,000, and you will have two very different experiences on those ends of the spectrum. If you spend a very low amount of money and buy the cheapest things you possibly can, you're probably not going to have a very positive experience, and there's a high likelihood you're not going to want to continue with the hobby. And the reason for that is you generally get what you pay for. And with the cheapest products on the market, they generally will not be very reliable. A lot of times things just won't even work out of the box in this industry, unfortunately. So definitely don't buy the cheapest things you possibly can. However, on the other end of the spectrum, spending around $2,000 buying the highest end stuff, yes, you will have the latest and greatest with the best features most likely, but that's a lot of money to spend. So in my opinion, the correct answer is somewhere in between. Mid-range products typically have a good balance of value, reliability, and features. And my mindset is generally buy once, cry once. So buy a quality product one time, and that way you don't have to replace a cheap product that failed, in which case you're buying twice and crying twice. So limit the amount of times you're crying, buy once, cry once. Now, you don't have to buy the most expensive product to have a good experience, because as you get more and more expensive at the high end of the spectrum, you typically have diminishing returns in terms of quality and features. So that's why I say kind of just look at the mid-range products. You don't have to go all the way to the high end. Just definitely stay away from the lowest end products. Now, there are a couple exceptions to this mid-range rule that I've come up with, and that is for the things that you are going to use in the long term that aren't really going to be subject to damage. So those things are mainly your transmitter and your goggles. So these aren't things that you're going to crash and break like the drone itself. These are things you can potentially use for a very long time. And if you spend a lot of money now on these items and get a quality product with a lot of features, you're not going to outgrow your transmitter and goggles very fast, in which case you'll actually save money because you won't have to upgrade as often, if at all. So for example, when I started out flying model aircraft, I bought a Spektrum DX8. This was way back in the day, and that was kind of a more entry-level programmable transmitter, and of course, in a few years, I kind of outgrew it. It didn't have enough features for me, so I had to buy again, and I bought a higher-end transmitter, the DX8, many years ago. And that one has just enough features to hold me over from buying a transmitter even today. They're on the third generation of that transmitter, and I bought the first generation of that transmitter when it was pretty new. So like I said, for your transmitter and goggles, just go up to the higher end products, get something with a lot of features so that you don't have to upgrade in just a year or two. Now, something else I want to discuss in this video are the long-term and recurring costs for being in the FPV drone hobby, because if you're a beginner just looking to get started, you're probably just looking at the cost of getting started and not the longer term expenses. So there are some consumables associated with flying FPV drones. The main one is propellers, because you will inevitably be crashing, especially if you're a beginner, you're going to crash a lot, and propellers are the first thing to break. So those run about $3 to $4 a set. Not a lot, but it adds up over time, especially if you're flying and crashing a lot. And the other kind of consumable is batteries. So we use LiPo batteries, and they can last many, many years if you take care of them, if you don't over discharge them, if you put them at the correct storage voltage when you're not using them. However, for the application of these high performance FPV drones, they tend to have much shorter lifespans, and that's for a couple of reasons. One reason is that with FPV drones, they are pulling a lot of power, and you're typically only getting a few minutes of flight time, which is very hard on the battery and reduces its lifespan. And FPV drones tend to be crashed a lot, and if you damage any one cell that makes up an entire battery pack, that whole battery pack is pretty much toast and you have to get a new one. So expect to be buying a fresh set of batteries every year or two, and batteries for a high performance 5 or 6 inch drone typically range anywhere from $15 to $50. And another long-term cost is kind of just the constant upgrading and building new drones, because if you get hooked on the hobby, then you're probably not going to just stick with one drone. You're probably going to constantly be building a new drone. As you get better, you tend to build new drones, trying different parts, chasing the perfect setup for your preferences. So anyone that's been in the hobby for more than a few years has probably spent more on just upgrading and those consumables than they did spend just getting started in the hobby. So just keep that in mind. Now, as far as hobbies go, first-person view drones and just model aviation in general really aren't that expensive, and the fun per dollar ratio is really high in my opinion. So I'm not trying to scare you away from trying out first-person view drones or any other aspect of model aviation. Just know that you're probably just going to keep spending money on it, and that's totally okay. It's totally worth it if you're having a good time. So that is it for this video. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions, your experiences down in the comments below. And please like this video if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming How to FPV series. If you got value out of this video or you're using an ad blocker, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Link to my Patreon, Discord server, and Instagram page are in the description below. Thanks for watching.